Commander Camaro's voice sliced through the oppressive stillness, sharp as a blade drawn under the sliver of moonlight. "Did you hear that?" The night had fallen silent in an unsettling way, the vast Sahel plains holding their breath. No wind whispered through the scrubland, only the rhythmic thud of boots, the steady inhale and exhale of soldiers, and the faint, lonely cry of some unseen creature of the dark. A convoy of armored vehicles moved with disciplined precision, a line of silent shadows gliding over a land that felt weary, as if peace had abandoned it generations ago. At the heart of this guarded formation sat President Ibrahim Traoré, a man who had become the beating heart of resilience for the fractured soul of Burkina Faso. Young, brilliant, and deeply cherished by his people, Ibrahim was not a leader content to be a pawn in foreign games. His adversaries were legion, warlords, mercenaries, corrupt officials, and shadowy forces whose loyalties shifted like desert sands. Tonight, he was returning from a clandestine inspection of a northern outpost. Only his closest circle knew, or so the intelligence suggested. But miles ahead, nestled within the suffocating embrace of a canyon pass, death lay in wait. High above the earth, a silhouette cut to the canvas of the starless sky. Sword and eagle, but this was no ordinary bird of prey. The local tribes called it Asabia, named for the ancient spirit of collective survival. A myth, they said, born from the great kingdoms that once commanded the Sahel. Its feathers shimmered, reflecting the faint light like obsidian dipped in liquid gold. Its eyes burned with rare, unearthly hue, not brown, not black, but an ageless silver that seemed to hold the secrets of time itself. For centuries, whispers had carried to the wind of a winged guardian, a creature said to appear only when leaders chosen by destiny flirted too closely with fate's cruel blade. That night, Asabia circled high above the convoy, unseen, unknown, until the very earth beneath them screamed. A deafening blast tore through the silence. The lead vehicle erupted in a ball of fire, flipping end over end like a child's toy tossed by a petulant god. Flames licked at the darkness. Shouts of pain and panic rose, mingling with the sharp crackle of gunfire that sounded like thunder rolling through the rocks. In mere seconds, the canyon transformed into a kill zone. Ambush! Commander Camaro roared, ducking his bullets with his pass's ear. Machine gun nests, cunningly hidden among the rocks above, unleashed a torrent of lead into the narrow pass. RPGs whistled from unseen crevices. The attackers, masked, brutal, and chillingly disciplined, moved like wraiths. These weren't local rebels. These were professionals. Inside the president's vehicle, which had lurched to a sickening halt, Traore remained unervingly calm. "Get me a rifle," he said, his voice level as a frozen lake. Lieutenant Wauer, his young face pale with fear, stammered, "Sir, we must evacuate." "I don't leave my men," Traore replied simply. Another explosion, this time behind them. The exit was gone. They were trapped, surrounded, as the flickering flames from the burning vehicles cast dancing, demonic shadows across the pass. The air grew thick with smoke, the screams of the wounded and the acrid, metallic tang of war. Traore stepped out of the armored car, rifle in hand. Dressed in sweat-soaked camouflage and a flak vest, he looked nothing like a head of state. He was a soldier, always had been at heart. He scanned the ridges, dozens of enemy fighters, moving with coordinated intent. This wasn't just an ambush. It was an extraction. They weren't trying to kill him. They wanted him alive. In a flash of terrifying clarity, he understood their plan. Assassinate the loyalists, isolate him, capture him, and broadcast his downfall to shatter the people's spirit. A psychological blow, a coup orchestrated without ever needing to storm the palace. But then, the impossible happened. A shriek, sharp, ancient, terrifying, cut through the cacophony. It was the kind of sound that seemed to rip the soul from the body, freezing men in mid-breath. Asabia plunged from the heavens. Its vast wings spread wide like an approaching storm front. It moved with impossible speed. In seconds, it reached the ridge where the snipers were positioned. Its talons flashed with surgical precision, tearing through the throat of the first gunner. A second man screamed as silver claws raked across his face. Chaos erupted on the enemy ridge. "What the hell is that?" One mercenary shrieked. "It's a drone." "I know it is. It's a bird. A freaking bird." But it wasn't just a bird. It was vengeance given form. Commander Camaro watched, mouth agape, as the eagle tore through the enemy positions like a ghostly missile. The creature wasn't simply attacking. It was calculating. Each strike was surgical, aimed at the enemy's nerve centers, commanders, machine gunners, spotters. The tide began to turn. Emboldened by the disruption, Traore and his remaining men pushed forward, reclaiming ground inch by agonizing inch. They fought like cornered wolves, fierce, tactical, desperate. "I want eyes on that ridge." Caimaro yelled. Fire and control burst into the rocks above. The enemy faltered. Their fire became sporadic. Some began to retreat, but it wasn't over yet. One mercenary, hidden deep in shadow, raised a shoulder-mounted launcher. He locked onto the president. Traore was exposed, kneeling beside a wounded soldier. The man smiled, a cruel, victorious grin. He fired. The rocket screamed forward, a fiery streak of impending death. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. And then the eagle reappeared. Slam! In a blur of wings and blinding light. Asabia collided with the warhead midair. A blinding explosion ripped through the sky, a thunderclap that rattled the very bones of the earth. Silence descended. President Traoré looked up, covered in soot and dust. The eagle was gone, vanished into the smoke and wind. Had it survived? Had it sacrificed itself? No one knew. By dawn, the ambush was crushed. 42 mercenaries lay dead, 17 captured. The survivors confessed, their voices hollow. They had been hired by a private military group, linked to a foreign mining cartel. Their motive: destabilize the region, remove Traoré, and install a puppet leader in exchange for unchecked control over the country's rare earth reserves. Traoré stood among the bodies, silent. He looked skyward, but saw only an empty horizon. Then a boy, no older than 12, emerged from the rocks, a dust-covered herder. He stared at the president with wide, knowing eyes. "You saw it?" the boy whispered. Traoré nodded slowly. The boy smiled. "My grandfather said it would come. The Sky Guardian." He paused. "You were chosen." The president placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "We are all chosen," he said softly, "but sometimes the sky reminds us." The story spread like wildfire, not as myth, but as testimony. Men who had fought that night, hardened soldiers who feared neither man nor beast, swore by what they had witnessed. Videos leaked, blurred footage, wings of fire, a shriek not of this world. Analysts scrambled to debunk it, some calling it CGI, others claiming it was a new military drone under testing. But in the hearts of the people, the truth was clear. A symbol had returned, not just for Ibrahim Traoré, but for all of Burkina Faso. Asabia, the eagle of unity, of spirit, of unbroken legacy, had reminded a nation that its soul could not be captured. And somewhere far above, in the cold blue silence of the sky, a watchful shadow, ancient and waiting, circled, ready for the next time destiny called. 3 days passed. The dead were buried, the wounded tended to, and the president's convoy returned to the capital, Ouagadougou. Yet the air was thick, not just with heat, but with something far more potent, a sense of awakening. Streets buzzed with murmurs, not just about politics, enemies, or survival, but about the eagle. And not just any eagle, the eagle of the Sahel. News outlets worldwide were baffled. Some scoffed, others speculated. CNN, an unconfirmed encounter involving a giant eagle and a failed assassination attempt on President Ibrahim Traoré has sparked global attention. Is this the beginning of a new age of biological warfare, or something else? Al Jazeera, witnesses, including military personnel, claim a supernatural eagle saved Burkina Faso's president. Intelligence agencies were left scratching their heads. But the people weren't confused. They knew. The old griots, the storytellers of the land, began to speak again, their tongues dusted with forgotten truths. "It was prophesied," said Baba Karidia, a 97-year-old seer from the highlands. "When the spirit of unity is threatened, the guardian will awaken, not for kings, not for power, but for the soul of the people." Meanwhile, deep within the presidential command bunker, hidden beneath the capital, President Traoré sat across from Dr. Adelia Mensoa. She was one of Africa's foremost ornithologists and a former intelligence analyst. Flown in overnight from Dar es Salaam, she had been briefed on everything. The videos, the confessions, the witness reports. She looked at him, her expression serious, deliberate. "That wasn't a normal eagle," she began. Traoré raised an eyebrow. "You don't believe it was a drone?" "No," she said flatly. "Drones don't intercept warheads at Mach speed and vanish without a trace. They crash. They leave debris. This was something else." She reached into her bag and pulled out a brittle, ancient manuscript. Its weathered ink sealed in a glass case from the Library of Jan. "It predates colonial maps," she murmured, turning its fragile pages. "It mentions an Isari, a sky-born guardian summoned by righteous blood in times of imbalance. It always appeared before the fall of great empires, the Mossy Kingdom, the Songhai, the Mande Rebellion." Ibrahim leaned in. "And now others." She nodded. "It's chosen you, or rather, the idea of you, what you represent." A silence fell, one that spoke volumes, not just about the attack, but about what it meant. The world had begun to change. What most did not know, what even Traoré's closest advisors only suspected, was that the ambush had been merely the first move. In a dimly lit room in Geneva, 5 men sat around a polished obsidian table. Their faces were obscured, their voices distorted. But their power was immense. They called themselves a consortium of obsidian, a secretive coalition of geopolitical power brokers, mining magnates, arms manufacturers, and intelligence defectors. For years, they had orchestrated silent coups, collapsed economies, and installed puppet regimes across Africa under the guise of stability. Burkina Faso was their next target. The ambush had been meticulously calculated, yet it failed because of a bird. "This is unacceptable," spat one voice, drumming fingers on the table. "Birds don't change outcomes," another replied coldly. "But symbols do, and that creature is now a symbol." A third man spoke slowly. "We underestimated him. We cannot afford to do so again." "Then we crush the symbol," said the first. "We kill the myth." A week later, President Ibrahim Traoré, against all recommendations from a security detail, vanished from the public eye. Only a trusted few knew where he had gone. He had traveled north, beyond satellite range, into the Whispering Hills, an ancient region where modern maps ended and oral legends took over. It was said that here reality and myth bled into one another like ink and water. No drone flew here. No GPS worked. He was not alone. With him were a small team of trusted allies, Commander Kamaro, Dr. Mensoa, and a Tuareg tracker named Sidi Elmaker, whose tribe had guarded the borders of these hills for generations. "I don't just want to be saved by the eagle," Traoré had said. "I want to understand it." They walked for days through valleys where time seemed to stand still, through villages where elders looked at Traoré not with fear or reverence, but recognition, as if they had seen his face long before he was born. Each night they heard it, a shriek, high above, just once, then silence. "I think it's watching us," Kamaro whispered one evening. "No," Sidi said without turning. "It's waiting." They found it on the 6th day. Hidden between 2 jagged cliffs, shrouded in vines, stood the Shrine of Wind, an altar carved directly into the living stone, covered in markings older than language itself. At its center, etched in faded ochre, was the image of a bird, its enormous wings spread across the sky, its eyes silver and knowing. Traoré approached slowly. The wind shifted. Dr. Adelia knelt, running her fingers along the glyphs. "These aren't just symbols, they're records," she murmured. "This place is a memory." As she translated, the story unfolded. There once lived a people whose spirit was so strong, the earth itself envied them. When invaders came, when betrayal rooted itself in blood, the people called upon the sky, and the sky answered, not with gods, but with guardians, with wings that remembered justice, and talons that knew the taste of tyranny. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. The wind stilled. Even the insects fell silent. Above, clouds gathered slowly at first, then spiraling like a giant, unseen eye watching them. From the shadows of the clouds, a shape emerged, not gliding, but descending purposefully. Asabia had returned. The eagle landed not on a rock, not on a branch, but directly before the president, and it bowed. A single, measured motion, a gesture of recognition. No one moved. Ibrahim Traoré stepped forward. Their eyes met, man and bird, leader and sentinel, president and legend. No words were spoken, but something passed between them, something deeper than language, a memory, a pact, a silent vow. Then, with a mighty flap of its wings, the eagle turned and began to rise. But before it vanished into the sky, it dropped something at Ibrahim's feet, a feather, but not an ordinary one. This feather shimmered with a glow not of this world, laced with patterns etched into its veins like intricate maps. Dr. Adelia picked it up, her hands trembling. "This isn't biological," she whispered. It's coded." "What do you mean?" Kamaro asked. "It's a message," she breathed. "A guide. Maybe even a warning." Traore looked north, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "The world thinks we won that battle," he said, closing his fist around the feather. "But the war is just beginning." At first glance, the feather was an artifact of ethereal beauty, delicate, shimmering with golden and obsidian hues, as if fire and shadow had woven themselves into a single filament. But under Dr. Adelia's portable scanning lens, it transformed into something that defied modern comprehension. "This feather, it's not from any known avian species," she whispered, rotating the lens. "The barbs are shaped like fractals. It's laced with micro-engraved circuits. It's an encoded topographic map." Everyone leaned closer. Tiny metallic veins pulsed just beneath the surface of the feather, revealing micro-etched cartographic lines. Rivers, valleys, contours. "Where does it lead?" Kaimaro asked, eyes narrowed. Dr. Adelia frowned. "Here's the thing. It leads to a place that doesn't exist on any current satellite map." She placed a transparent digital overlay over the feather and zoomed in. The projection on her device began to assemble the landscape. A deep canyon, an abandoned city. A name, Zaraktan, appeared, etched in an old Berber script. Sidi Elmaker took a sharp breath. "That name, it hasn't been spoken in over 1,000 years," the Tuareg said solemnly. "My grandfather spoke of it only once. He called it the city that made the earth bleed. It was buried by time, sealed by sand, cursed by fire. No one who went searching for it ever came back." Traore stood, the feather clutched tightly in his hand. "We're going," he said. They traveled light and swiftly. An elite team of 12, selected personally by the president, trusted beyond question. No electronic signals, no GPS. Only old maps, whispers from Sidi's tribe, and the eagle's feather scanned and converted into 3D terrain data by Dr. Adelia. It took them 4 days to reach the outer rift, an expanse of fractured earth and scorched valleys where even the hardiest desert nomads refused to settle. Strange static clung to the air. Compasses spun wildly. Radios died. It was as if the land itself didn't want to be found. Then, at the base of a jagged cliff, just as the feather had foretold, they found it. An enormous stone gate, carved with the likeness of wings and talons half buried, eroded by centuries, yet unmistakably engineered, not by modern hands, but by a civilization whose existence had been erased. Zaraktan, the lost city. The team stood in stunned silence. The wind howled, carrying the scent of ancient iron, metallic and strange. "This isn't just a city," whispered Adelia, all flooding her voice. "This is a vault." And that's when they heard it, the cry of Asabia above, circling high in the blood-red dusk, as if warning them, "You're not alone." Thousands of kilometers away, inside a submarine data fortress beneath the Arctic Sea, the consortium of Obsidian intercepted a signal. "Pulse brief encrypted. Old world." "Ping confirmed," said the analyst. "Zaraktan has been accessed." The table 5 came alive. "It's real," said the lead voice. "He's found it." Another leaned forward. "Deploy Ghost Protocol. Send units. Level 0 clearance. But they'll tear the region apart. They'll erase it." "They will," said the voice coldly. "We'll frame it as a terrorist expedition gone rogue. We end this before the legend spreads." And with that, a Black Ops team known only as units, veterans of secret wars, stripped of identity and conscience, boarded a stealth aircraft bound for Sahel. Their objective: eliminate President Ibrahim Traoré, retrieve or destroy whatever he found in Zaraktan. Inside the city, the temperature dropped unnaturally as the team descended into the heart of the vault. Glowing crystals lined the walls, providing light, but also seeming to function as recording devices. They flickered as the team passed, as if the city was slowly awakening from a long slumber. They reached a chamber shaped like an enormous rib cage, bones or pillars, no one could tell. In the center stood a pedestal. Upon it, not gold, not weapons, but a codex, a sphere of light, suspended within an ancient obsidian frame, pulsing faintly like a heart. Dr. Adelia approached, her breath catching in her throat. "This is not a weapon," she murmured. "It's knowledge, language, history, maybe even technology that predates recorded time." Traore touched the sphere. It responded instantly, not with light but with sound. A chorus of voices, all languages, yet speaking as one, a single message. When the earth forgets itself, when power poisons the rivers, the winged one shall choose a bearer, not to rule, but to remember. And just then, the walls shook, explosions above. Commander Kaimaro drew his rifle. "They found us." Unit Knox stormed into the ruins like shadows made flesh. No insignia, no hesitation, only brutal, efficient precision. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't ask questions. They killed. The underground echoed with gunfire, shouts, the metallic clash of close-quarters combat. Traore's team returned fire, defending the vault as if guarding Eden itself. Then the shriek. Asabia dived from the heavens, talons tearing through a commando mid-leap, wings cracking the air like thunderclaps. Even the units paused, momentarily stunned. They had heard the rumors. They had dismissed them as folklore. But now, they were face-to-face with the myth made real. One of them raised a high-frequency jammer, locking onto the eagle's wingbeat. He never got to finish calibrating it. Asabia didn't just strike. It folded time. In a flash, it was beside him, talons crushing both the device and the man's throat in one brutal snap. Traore's forces rallied, pushing back the invaders. The vault held, but one final attacker had slipped through the chaos. And he wasn't after the vault. He was after the president. Traore was cut off, cornered inside a western corridor, just outside the Chamber of Light. His rifle was empty, his knife broken. The assassin moved slowly, helmeted, silent, blade drawn. "I expected a dictator," the man said flatly, his voice synthesized. "Not a pilgrim." "I expected a coward," Traore replied, adrenaline coursing through him. "Not a priest in armor." They circled each other, one representing a global empire of silence, the other the dream of a continent rising. The blade flashed, but Traore moved faster. Years of field combat, insurgencies, jungle warfare, desert raids surged through his limbs. He blocked, ducked, disarmed. They wrestled, sweat and blood mingling on the ancient stone. The assassin reached for a hidden pistol. But before he could fire, Asabia crashed through the corridor wall, a blur of wings and primal fury, crushing the man into the stone. Silence returned. Only the wind remained in the soft, ancient hum of the codex. Outside Zaraktan, dawn broke over the desert. The sun rose not just on a new day, but on a new understanding. The survivors emerged from the ruins, carrying with them the codex, the feather, and a truth long buried. They had not just survived, they had awakened something. Traore stood atop a dune, the codex in one hand, the feather in the other. The eagle perched beside him, watching the rising sun. Kamaro approached. "What now, sir?" The president looked to the east, towards a waking continent. "We no longer fight for just Burkina Faso," he said, his voice resonating with newfound purpose. "We fight for every land that forgot its wings. And we fight with the skies on our side." Months passed since the battle beneath Zaraktan. The city had been reburied, not hidden in fear, but preserved with purpose. A team of trusted archivists, scientists, and spiritual guardians protected its secrets, watched over by the eagle, Asabia, whose presence had since become a symbol, not a fantasy, but a faith. The world changed, not all at once, but in undeniable ripples. Across West Africa, youth movements sprang from villages and cities alike. They called themselves Les Enfants du Vent, the children of the wind. They carried no weapons, only truth, discipline, and vision. Their chant echoed from Mali to Ghana. The sky remembers, and so do we. Where once there had been silence, now there was awakening. Where once there had been forgotten stories, now there were nations retelling their origins in their own words, in their own tongues. And at the center of it all stood President Ibrahim Traoré, not as a ruler, but as a keeper of memory. He did not claim the Codex as his own. He presented it to a newly formed Pan-African Council, where elders, scholars, youth leaders, and even former rebels sat together to read from its light. We are not reclaiming power, he told the world in a historic address broadcast from the heart of Sahel, his voice reaching across continents. We are reclaiming ourselves. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. The consortium of Obsidian still plotted in the shadows. But now, Africa had something they couldn't steal. Its history, its spirit, its guardian, and the undeniable truth whispered on the wind, that the sky remembers. If this incredible story of myth, resilience, and the fight for a continent's soul resonated with you, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that delve into the fascinating intersections of history, legend, and the unexplained. Share this tale with anyone who believes in the power of symbols and the enduring spirit of humanity. The sky remembers, and so should we.